Hello, fishing friends. This is Matthew with Outfishing 13, bringing you another reel service and repair video. It's February and spring is just around the corner, and I want to make sure I have brand new line on my reels. So I'm going to show you how to put line on any kind of spin cast or closed face reel. It could be an Abu Garcia, it could be a Zebco, it could be a Shakespeare. Just any model out there. I'm going to show you how to do that so that you can get new line on your reel and have successful fishing trips this spring and summer and fall. All right, let's get started. Okay, here's the reel that I'm going to put new line on. I've had this line on here since the spring when I bought this reel, but who knows how long the reel has had line on it. I have some fairly new Sufix here. It's an 8-pound test, and I like using 8-pound tests on my Zebco reels because I get a little bit farther cast with them, and I like this Sufix because it's nice and limber, and it's this smoke green, and it just disappears in there. Now, one of my favorite lines is actually the fluorescent green because it disappears too, but it's easy for me to see where the line is going out in the water. Now let me explain why you want to put new line on your reels at least every other year, if not every year. The first reason is because as your line goes through the water and you cast it, you won't see this all the time. This kind of line doesn't necessarily just always float on top of the water, but with a lure that's going down there, it's going to brush up against sticks and rocks, the bottom of a river or lake. It's going to brush up against your boat, the dock, lots of different places, and that line will get abrasion on it. Now, monofilament is probably the best line to prevent abrasion, and it stays strong, but still you get nicks in there, and when you lose a fish, it's going to be on the last 3 or 4 or 5 feet of your line. That's where most of the abrasions are. So whenever you go fishing, it's always a good idea when you're retying to take and cut off about 3 to 5 feet of your line and get rid of those abrasions and retie so that you have good fresh line on the end near your lure, because that is where it's going to break. The other reason why is because your line will get memory in it. As I take this off here, you can see just how it has memory on it. This spool of line, although it's brand new line, it's probably about 3 years old when I bought it. Still, it's great line. I have a little trick that when I take it off there and before I go fishing, where I'm going to do some long casts, I actually take and stretch the line, and that will take out some of the memory. You take out about 30 yards and hook your line up against a tree and then back up with the drag tight and stretch it, and it'll stretch it so that you can see that it takes some of that memory out of it. Okay, so what do we need to do? First thing we need to do is take the old line off. So what I like to do is take the bottom half of my pole where it just has one eye on it. Now you can do this with the whole pole too, but working in a small shop, it's easier to just use the bottom half of your pole to mount the reel on. So I'm going to mount the reel on here. And then I want to get something that I can wrap up and dispose of all this old line. I don't need it anymore, and I just want to throw it away, but I want to dispose of it so it's not just a big jumbled mess that some critter is going to get stuck in at the dump. Okay, I got something that I'm going to wrap it up on here to dispose of this. And all I want to do is just wrap it up on here until it gets all the way to the end. Okay, I got the end of my line, so I'm going to take the cap off and cut the line off. Okay. Now, if you want to, you always have to keep in mind that this line here that came off the reel last really hasn't been used at all. I'm going to actually save this line and use it to make some fishing snails for bait fishing. Let me show you here how to do it, to tie the slip knot so it doesn't come undone. The first thing you want to do is tie an overhand knot like this in the end of your fishing line. Then you want to come back up here and tie a knot like this and snug that up so that that little knot right there prevents that slip knot. What we're going to do is we're going to come through the eye up here on the pole. Then you got to make sure you go through the eye here, or else you'll end up undoing everything and putting it back on there. And then I'm going to tie a little knot, it's a little overhand knot in the end of my line. I can take a knife and cut it off pretty close, and then take and tie an overhand knot, this time going around my main line and back through, and making a little slip knot that's going to clinch up on itself and won't come undone. Now I can go around my spool here and cinch that up and get it tight. Put my spinner cone back on. And what we want to do, let me show you this before I get too far, is we want to put line on here that's about 1/8 of an inch from the top of this spool here. You don't want to fill it all the way full. You want to fill it to about 1/8 of an inch. If you fill it all the way full, the line can tend to fall over and get caught in the middle here if it's too full, or it gets so full that it doesn't like to cast because it rubs up against the inside of your spinner cone assembly. So we're going to watch for that. So we'll put that back on, put the cap on, make sure you don't entrap the line when you screw your cap back on. Okay, and then for putting the line on today, I have this little line holder that's got a little suction cup. I've got a smooth surface here, so you need a smooth surface, and tighten that on there. And then we're going to take one of the springs off, and this works really well because it has some tension on it, and it doesn't just let the line come on really loosely. And because we want some tension on the line, I'm going to try to drag up some more, but I just want to keep going. Now when I do it this way, it's going to have a little bit of line twist. I have another video that you can watch that shows you how to put it on your reel without line twist, but the line is always going to get some twist on it unless you have like a level line or a bait caster reel. The line's always going to get twist on it, but that's not a big deal. A lot of that twist comes out if you're using a swivel. But I'm going to check by removing the spool here and look down in there. I'm going to check to make sure it's not too full. So I'll put this back on, and we got lots of space, so we're going to keep going. Now, if you don't have a device like this, or you don't want to buy a spool of your own line, you can always go to any sporting goods store, and most of them have a line service desk or a service desk where you can drop off your reel and tell them what kind of line you want put on there, and they'll put it on there for you for like $3 or $4. Like, usually it's by the yard, and so that's a good way to go, and then you don't have to do this yourself if you don't want to. Alright, now I'm going to stop here. I'm going to check how much line I have on. I'm probably about halfway there. Oh, actually I'm getting pretty close. Now, this reel is hard for me to see how close it is to the top of the spool, because the cap doesn't come out, the end of the cap does. And I'm really close. I'm just about there. I'm going to put just a little bit more on. Like I said, about 23 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think that's going to be enough there. But just remember, there's a number of really good reasons why you want to change your line at least once a year. Well, at least every other year if you don't use your line, your pole a lot, and your line isn't getting used a lot. But if you're fishing 3 or 4 times a week, you probably want to replace your line 2 or 3 times a season, and at least once a year, because you'll catch more fish, you'll have less break-offs. Make sure you're looking at your reel to find out what kind of line it uses. Now, this can use mono and 110 yards, a 10-pound test. I know the 8-pound test works really well on it too. You can put some 12-pound test if you wanted to hear on here. You can also, on this reel, it comes braid ready, and you can put 120 yards of 30-pound test on there. I'm not a big fan of braid on these types of reels, but give it a shot. I'm going to try it out this year and just give you my opinion on it. But it will remove line twist. It will take away the old line that has memory in it. It'll take away the line that has abrasions in it and it's getting stiff and brittle. And you'll have a lot more success fishing with it. This is tough line when it's brand new, but when it gets 2 or 3 years old, it starts getting brittle, abraded, and will start breaking, and you'll lose fish. And when you break off a fish, that's no fun. Anyways, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. Put some comments below. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit the thumbs up and the notification button. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.